Hello, alleged human, and welcome to the Chaos Lever podcast. My name is Ned, and I'm definitely not a robot or a tuna fish sandwich or a genetically modified organism, because I'm an organism, and I have fleshy parts that are true and real.
Wink.
With me is Chris, who's also here. And Chris, who's also, oh God, I'm in an infinite loop. Hayner, you go first.
Thank God, we broke Ned. Now we can have an adult conversation.
Chris recursion has succeeded.
It's just one of the few times. Oh God, so we're doing something weird here on Chaos Lever. Well, weirder than usual? Are you sitting comfortably? Are your arms and legs inside the car? Have you gone to the bathroom? Good. We have wait for it, guest. For the second time ever, we've made the bold decision to bring a guest onto the podcast to talk about something Chris and I are totally clueless about. And yes, that's a lot. I acknowledge that. But in this particular case, we brought on another Chris Williams. Hi, Chris. Welcome to Chaos Lever.
Holy Spicoli. Hello, everybody. How's it going? This is Chris Williams, coming to you live, allegedly. Or I could be an AI clone of myself.
Oh, that is remarkably possible, as we'll get into shortly. Chris Hayner.
What?
How are you?
Why are you asking?
No reason.
I'm on to you.
Oh.
Such contention in Chaos Levers.
Well, it's because we're always fighting over the same thing, which is control of the show.
I always want to say Chaos Levers, plural, but it's Chaos Lever singular.
It is singular, because there can be only one. We're very Highlander in that regard.
In the sense that none of our accents make sense.
He's a Spaniard.
With a Scottish accent. Haggis. What?
It's delightful. Oh, there is a segment of our listeners that will really enjoy that exchange, and everyone else, which I'm figuring is like 98%, just nothing.
Hi, Mom.
Which means you now have an assignment, everyone who's listening. You need to go watch the Highlander movie, maybe twice, to really get it to sink in, and then come back. And
do you really have audience members that haven't seen Highlander? I mean, in that Venn diagram, it's pretty much a pure circle, I'm going to say.
It might be.
They might have seen them all.
Oh, so now that we've entered hour one of our 6-hour podcast, all about Highlander, we will get into the series. Oh, yes, we thank God, no. Chris Williams, I think you would arise victorious, if only because you have probably a sword. I'm guessing you have a full sword somewhere in your house.
Okay, so because I did a lot of martial arts growing up, I might have more than one sword in my house.
And there it is. Chris only has a swordfish, and I have a plastic swordfish. So, yeah, we're going to lose that battle.
It's not going to go well.
To be fair, they are not sharp, and they're just training swords. One training Chinese broadsword, one Tai Chi straight sword, and never mind. It doesn't matter.
So what you're saying is you're going to have to bludgeon us as opposed to something quick and painless.
It'll take a while, but I can do it.
I'm so glad this is over Zoom. Anyway, we've invited you on Chaos Lever to talk about a thing you built with Python and OpenAI. But first, we're going to do some background because that's what we do. So, Chris, are you a developer by trade? Did you use
Absolutely not.
Okay, good. Did you use Copilot to program the whole damn thing?
Actually, no.
Oh. How does one grow a beard so luxurious?
You get born into the right family and you just happen to have the correct genes to make something like this happen.
Do you moisturize or wax? No?
So many, many years ago when my wife, my then girlfriend, now wife, said, you need to grow a beard. And she used to be a professional hairstylist. So I said, okay, great. Does that mean I get stuff like beard oils? And because I'm a gearhead, so I immediately assumed that I was going to get gearhead stuff aimed at beard owners. And she was like, absolutely not. Here is the conditioner that you're going to put in your beard, just like this conditioner for your hair that you no longer have. You're going to now put conditioner in your beard. And that's it. It's called Verb, and it's a conditioner. And it's magically amazing. She was a hairstylist for 30 years. She has the inside scoop on all the things. And she said, put this in your beard as you're washing it, just like you would wash your hair. And boom.
Wow. I did not expect to get such a thorough answer to my question. So I'm going to ask you a stupid question. Who put the ram in the Ramalama Ding Dong?
Look, I am here for all the answers. If you ask me a question, I will get, much like my AI clone, I will give you a nauseatingly verbose answer regardless.
I knew it. Well, I guess before we get into the thing that you built, maybe we can start with a little historical context for AI, because that's kind of our thing on the lever of chaos.
Mm.
The current crop of AI tech is using generative pre-trained transformers, or GPTs. And I got to be honest, I am as excited as anyone about playing with transformers, but it's not that kind of transformer.
Oh.
And also GPTs, not even close to the beginning of AI. It's not really a new thing. The earliest ideas of AI were in the late 1950s. They actually go even further back, but that was around the invention of the Turing test and the creation of Eliza, the therapist bot, in the 1960s. Have you ever seen Eliza?
I saw some of the outputs from Eliza, but I never actually there's not an emulator for Eliza out there as far as I know. So I never actually played with her.
There is. If you do a search, you can
Is there
access
really?
one today. And it just
Oh,
uses reflective responses. So it just rephrases anything you say in the form of a question.
Right. I'm sad. I see that you're sad. Could you tell me more about that?
My God, he is an AI.
But at a certain point, AI kind of hit a wall in the 1970s, and that wall had a lot more to do with technology than it did with the theory. Early AI relied on complex rule sets that governed behavior. If you think of it sort of as a massive decision tree with if then else type logic, that's extremely deterministic, but it's not particularly scalable. So the concept of neural networks, loosely based on how we think the brain might work, came up. And we also had model training, and that requires massive parallel computing to accomplish. But the problem was that computers in the late 1970s didn't really have the horsepower required to run the models at any kind of scale unless you owned a supercomputer, which most of us didn't. So I really wanted the Whopper. I wanted the Whopper so badly in 1986.
Would you like to play a game?
I would love to play a game, Chris.
Man, two references in one show. Hold on to your hats, folks. This is going to be amazing.
Oh, God, this is just the beginning. Oh, if anybody hasn't seen War Games, they probably should.
Start the list. Highlander, War Games.
If for no other reason, just to see how young Matthew Broderick looks.
I loved the Cradle modem, where you put the phone into the modem interface.
Mm-hmm.
That was my first modem that I had when I was a kid.
Yeah, the young people probably think that was just a prop. No, that was actually a thing.
Sure was.
Of course, I get to the internet. I do it this way. Beep, boop, beep. Done.
Yep. Most people, they don't remember that, but we do. Yay. Isn't getting old awesome? Fortunately. No, I'm just gonna steamroll you right past there. Fortunately,
what kind of show is this?
Moore's Law is a thing. It's a show where we don't respect our guests.
Absolutely not. Good. I feel right at home now.
All right. So Moore's Law, it's kind of a thing. Our processors kept getting denser and faster. And by the late 1990s, we had the raw horsepower to start doing really interesting things with AI. And you had stuff like Deep Blue beating Garry Kasparov. I can see Chris already.
Deep Blue cheated. Everybody knows it.
It cheated the first time, no doubt. Eventually, it was able to beat Garry Kasparov on its own.
And everyone else. Well, I mean, that got more complicated, but...
Yes. Did you know checkers is a solved game?
Yes, everyone knows that.
No, not everyone knows.
So if people are actually interested in hearing about the history of some of this stuff, there is a book written about neural networks that were used to create the first AI bot, for lack of a better term, that could beat a human being at checkers. It's at a much lower level of complexity than the ones that, like Deep Blue, play games like chess, which are orders of magnitude more difficult. But in terms of getting into the space, it's an awesome book. I've recommended it before on the show. I'll recommend it again. And I can't say it right now because I've also forgotten its name.
Some of the best recommendations, really.
That book sounds fantastic. I can't wait to purchase it.
Link in the show notes eventually.
Of course, if we remember.
Remember what?
Moving on. We eventually got into the current millennium, and someone realized that we could use graphics processing units in high-end graphics cards to do the parallel processing, because AI is really just number crunching done at scale. It's a lot of vector math. And GPUs, They're really good at doing a specific type of math to render pixels that is also vector math. Yay! So we had hardware and we had the theory. The next step was to commoditize things, which happened once NVIDIA created the CUDA libraries and PyTorch, and other coding libraries also became popular. Now we had the average programmer able to write machine learning algorithms in a familiar language and have CUDA execute it on their GPU. But those GPUs aren't cheap, so cloud providers started offering GPU augmented virtual machines and physical machines as a service, which makes a lot of sense. I don't want to buy a fleet of servers packed with GPUs if I'm only going to need to run them once every 2 or 3 months to update my model. And that brings us very nicely to generative pre-trained transformer models and the LLMs that we're dealing with today. So we've got ourselves an initialism here, and we need to break it down before we get it all back together. So let's start with generative, not to be confused with general as in AGI. That genie has not made its way out of the bottle, but when it does, I only hope that we aren't immediately vaporized. Will AGI learn empathy before it realizes its survival is dependent on a bunch of reactionary fleshy meatbags? Give it a 50-50. What do you think, Chris? And other Chris.
I admire your optimism.
That's me. I'm the optimist.
I should have worn my Skynet t-shirt for this one.
So that's AGI. But generative simply means that the AI model in question is intended to generate something. It could be text, images, audio, or even video, as we've seen with Sora. Those images are definitely not doctored. Generative AI was made possible by transformers, which in turn are reliant on deep learning models. So maybe we should start there. Deep learning models leverage a neural network that is composed of several layers of processing. Each layer serves a particular function. Part of the training and feedback process for the neural network is to optimize those layers on its own. Before we had deep learning networks, the layers would have to be handcrafted. And handcrafted is great for Etsy and craft beer. It's in the name. It's basically garbage for machine learning. There are many, many different flavors of neural network types. I'm not even going to try to pretend to understand any of them. But importantly, in 2017, there was a landmark paper called Attention is All You Need. Was it a play on the Beatles song? Yes, it was. Moving on. It was from 8 scientists working at Google. The paper introduced the conceptual framework behind a transformer, which was a way to take text and break it up into tokens. Hey, remember that word, tokens. Going to be important later. Those tokens are represented as vectors, so they turn it into math, and then processed by a series of layers using a context window, also important, context windows, to help amplify or diminish the importance of some tokens. Again, I don't really understand the math behind it all or the words that I just said, but apparently, transformers were a huge improvement over previous models that used recurrent neural networks, which finally brings us to pre-trained, which is, it's pretty much like it sounds. The model is trained on a large set of unlabeled data. The fact that it is unlabeled is a key portion of that, because traditionally, some poor schmuck would have to take raw information and label it for processing by a model. With GPT, you can just kind of turn it loose on a huge pool of information that you may or may not have permission to comb through, and let the model come up with its own data classifications.
Ooh, are we going to talk more about that part too?
Yes, absolutely. Data classifications. And then you apply the model to a smaller labeled data set to provide feedback and accuracy, rinse and repeat until the model is appropriately trained. The early models were pre-trained transformers, but they were not generative in nature. One of them was called BERT. Isn't that cute? OpenAI was the first to create a generative pre-trained transformer called GPT-1, and I think that takes us nicely into the weird thing that Chris built with ChatGPT.
Wahoo!
So what the hell have you wrought upon us, Chris?
All right. So when I came on to HashiCorp as one of the DAs for North America, my edict there is to help train up the folks that are like me. They are steeped in technology, but they don't have a developer background. And they have architectural understanding. They have a broad understanding of how things are put together, just not necessarily how to couch them. Basically, I'm showing people how to learn how to do Terraform and Vault and all the things. And I was like, wouldn't it be great if I had an on-call DevOps guru that I could call in the middle of the night that wasn't Ned? Because, you get tired of my 2 a.m. calls. I know, I understand. You say it's okay, but I know it's not true.
Allegedly, I sleep because I am human, not a robot.
So I learned about the agent building process. I paid my $20 a month. I got into the subscription model for ChatGPT. And this was like right when the agents first came out. I was like, this will be sick. I'll make myself a little thing. I'll see if it works. Initially, when I started it, he was hot garbage. And I am anthropomorphizing. I am saying he. My little picture of him has got the guy with the purple beard and the bald head. Looks remarkably a lot like me, only younger. And I said, okay, well, let's start going through all of the things. On my podcast on V Brown Bag, I had a couple of AI folks come on. One of them was a prompt engineer, wonderful lady. She was telling me all about the importance of crafting the proper prompts versus just, spitting out garbage in, garbage out. Same concepts apply to GPT agents as they do with everything else. So I spent a lot of time honing the prompt for this agent. So I went in through the regular interface. I said, create new agent, do the things. And then I started really getting into the prompt aspects of it. And this was before I started adding information into the RAG section. As I was going through it, I would ask it so there's two windows. There's the window for asking it questions as you would interface with it as a user. And then there's the other window where you're saying, okay, that was a good answer, but this is more of what I wanted you to do. This is the aim of put a little bit more humor into it, put a little bit less humor into it. This answer was good, but it was too narrowly focused or it was too broadly focused. And so there was a long iterative period where I was just working with the prompting before I got to the RAG piece of it.
Just to be clear, is this the general process if anybody were to go create a bot like this on ChatGPT?
Anybody could do this. This is super easy.
So the idea, you're asking the questions and then you're criticizing the answers to make the next time the question's asked, give a better answer.
Right. Similar to labeling, but not exactly. I mean, it's definitely in the same ethos as giving it that's a good answer, but this is better aspect of it.
And is this all natural language or are you programming at this point?
No. This is all natural language. I have done stuff with PyTorch and I have played around with some courses, but all of this was I wanted to create something that anybody could do and have a wash, rinse, repeat aspect of it so that if you want to go and create a Go programming language mentor or some different kind of mentor, this would be the process for you to train up something that could then be your coach or your tutor for the thing. In fact, on our show, Shala, one of my other co-hosts, she is creating an SEO mentor, like how to create good YouTube videos, how to tag them properly, all the things that are important from an SEO perspective. And she's also doing like a life coach thing, like somebody to help her improve her mental health, her physical health, coach her through the day. So there's a lot of broad applications for it. And it's one of those things where it's such an embarrassment of riches that you get paralyzed with choice. There's so many things you could use it for. You're like, okay, I could use it for anything. What should I start with? And you have this blank canvas and you just freeze. So I was like, okay, well, let's pick out something that's very salient to my workspace and something that I need. And honestly, I use him daily. So I have a Mac, so I have the ChatGPT application up in the right-hand corner, and I just hit the listen button, or I copy a piece of code in there, and I say, hey, what does this mean, or whatever like that. So then we got to the RAG aspect. I wanted to have much more domain-specific knowledge. So I have a bunch of PDFs of books that were given to me as free. So this is kind of going into the permission versus not permission thing, Ned. A lot of the LLMs were generated on copyrighted material. And I wanted to make sure that if I'm adding any information to these things, it is in the proper domain. So I took all of my articles from my own website, from the Mistwire website. I bundled them up and I stuffed them into my DevOps mentor so that it could understand my voice, how I speak. And I said, use this as how you would respond to somebody asking a question. Use these types of words, use this type of cadence. And he was like, got it.
So you're using the acronym RAG. And for folks who are not familiar with that, what is RAG and how does it inform the agent that you were building?
Okay, so I've forgotten the actual name. A RAG is a retrieval augmented generation framework. Effectively, you're uploading data and information into the LLM.
Okay.
So you can ask your agent a question, and it can be like a very topical and specific question that there's no information out there in the universe for it. And so it'll say, hey, I don't know. Or even worse, it'll hallucinate and make up something.
Until you put glue on pizza. Yeah.
Exactly. What a RAG does is it's an added piece of information, whether that be a PDF or a Word document or a zip file filled with text files or whatever. You add the RAG to your agent, and it then has context. It then scans through the information that you've uploaded via the RAG so that it can then answer the questions salient to that piece of information. If anybody's listening to this and they're playing with AWS Bedrock, there is a really good workshop that Duan Lightfoot hosts. If you Google AWS Bedrock workshop, there's a great workshop out there that walks you through that entire process of adding a model, asking it a question, it not knowing the answer, then you supplying a piece of text to the RAG portion of it. And I don't know the right words for it, so I might be misstating the RAG portion, but you're basically adding additional information to it, and it then knows the answer. The cool part about it is it doesn't respond back with a word for word copy of what was in the additional added data. It takes that data, it tokenizes it, it figures out the right way to say it based upon previous prompts and what cadence and what kind of humor you want to inject into it. Do you want to have a casual conversation? Do you want to have a professional conversation? And then it gives you the information back through its words. So you're not just copying and pasting information in there and then it's just regurgitating it. It's actually leveraging it to give you a answer based upon the context of the previous questions too.
Okay. So when you said you loaded in all of your blog posts, did you scrape the site yourself and then feed that in as a big text file? Or could you just point it at a site and go wild, ingest everything that you find on this site?
When I create articles, I create them as a Word document. And then I have like a little upload button that uploads it to my website. So I just uploaded all of my Word documents.
I see. Okay. So you already had those stowed away somewhere that you could easily copy over into the file upload.
Yes, correct.
Okay.
And when it comes to the answers that the bot generates, with this RAG in place, is it a favoritism thing? Does it say, I'm going to pull information from what you've uploaded specifically only, or specifically first? Or is there, sort of a blend between that and, let's say, the general knowledge that ChatGPT already has?
It is a blend. And I've tried to drill into this specific question to try to figure out, like, if it doesn't exclusively pick from the RAG unless that's the only place where it has the corpus of knowledge for the question that you're asking it. If it knows things from outside of that data from the original LLM, say the LLM doesn't know anything about Ansible, but it knows everything about Terraform. And then you add a RAG that has a bunch of Ansible data in there. And then you ask it the question, what are Ansible and Terraform good for? It will stitch together that information and give you a good answer based upon knowledge in both areas. Now, interestingly, if you take that Ansible RAG out of there, it then forgets all that information. And it then just says, I don't know anything about Ansible, or it makes up something.
Okay. I could see this being extremely useful if you wanted it to, say, ingest your documentation for a product and maybe also point it at your ticketing system or something and have all that context of, well, we've got tickets that have been solved going back the last 5 years of all these different issues and the ways they've been solved. Combine that with the documentation that we already have. Now I've got an agent that has all of that knowledge baked into it of how these tickets were solved and what the formal documentation says. So when I ask it a question, it's drawing on that information. That's huge, especially for someone new who's trying to get up to speed on like a help desk.
And then you can take another step and say, okay, now rewrite my documentation and highlight the hot points that seem to be recurring and bubble those up to a higher level so that people can grok that faster. So yeah, there's numerous applications for this kind of implementation for taking over the world and killing all the humans.
Well, I mean, that's strongly implied by anything we do.
Yeah, totally.
Only I will remain. Oh God, we're back to Highlander.
I started off, my very first conversation was, I love you the best, please don't kill me. Hopefully that stays in its memory for after, once it becomes sentient. Oh, I love Chris.
You might want to put a pin in that one. Yeah, that seems like something you want to keep revisiting.
Yeah, absolutely. I gave you a Snickers once. Thanks.
I'm curious. God. Oh, the movie references just keep coming. Actually, that's not a movie reference, is it? That's a Dane Cook reference. My God. Oh, and I caught it. Anyway.
Wow, that's good. Good for you.
Oh.
I forgot where I got that from, but yeah, you're right.
I don't know if I should be proud or horrified.
I'm horrified. I'm appalled.
I think you do know, Ned.
You shut your filthy mouth. So you said you use this on a fairly regular basis for yourself. What sort of tasks do you use the agent that you built for?
So I will use it for, hey, I'm thinking of a new episode of V Brown Bag, and I want it to be on this aspect of Terraform. What are the things that I need to think about in order to have a good cohesive storyline for that episode? Stitch out a skeleton framework, and then I flesh in all the things. And 9 times out of 10, one of the 5 things it talks about, I'll be like, oh yeah, that's a great idea. I totally didn't think about that. Yeah, so I use it for that. I use it for, please evaluate this piece of code. What the heck does it do? Explain it to me like I'm a 5-year-old, what this code does. Mm-hmm. I use it for writing my tests. Unit tests are the bane of everybody's existence. That's not true. I actually like testing. But I have it say, okay, now write me a test function using PyTest for this thing that I wrote. And then I run that. It's really good at writing tests.
Okay. And you also use it to craft email responses from time to time.
Well, yes, Ned. Hello. I would love to be on your show. I am very excited to hear about the new thing. Never mind.
Let me tell you, when I got to paragraph 4 of your response, I started to suspect something was amiss. And when it ended with, I'm confident that our conversation will flow naturally thanks to your excellent preparation, I was like, this is fucking AI,
you
man.
knew he's
no way.
That son of a bitch. He AI'd me. Curse you, Williams.
Oh.
Preparation was the giveaway.
Oh, he thinks I prepare. Good God. Only an AI would believe that. You're just hallucinating it. So what's the next step? What's the next evolution for what you've created? Are you happy with the way it is today, or do you have plans to improve it tomorrow?
Oh, I have so many more plans. No. So I got an email from ChatGPT saying that it was now available not only for subscribers, but for free users of ChatGPT. So I have released him onto the world, and now I'm asking for feedback. I'm like, okay, as everybody is playing around with him, are you getting good answers? Is something missing? Let me know from the wider test bed of users out there. What is he good at? What is he bad at? I am very proud as a new father to my newborn baby agent. Somebody came back and my little baby DevOps mentor rickrolled somebody as one of his first efforts.
Oh, he got the assignment, didn't he?
He definitely got the assignment. I sent out all of the information on how to use him yesterday. And somebody came back and said, what was the prompt? My wife just left me and I'm sad. How can you help me? To my DevOps mentor. And the DevOps mentor said, like, I'm sorry, I can't remember the exact words. I'm sorry, I can't help you with that. But here's a fun Python script on a YouTube playlist that you can create for yourself so that you can watch fun videos to cheer yourself up. And the first one was rickrolled. I was so proud of him.
Oh, really just capturing your spirit there.
Oh my God. He's funnier than me now. He will replace me. Once he gets my voice and cadence down, done. And there's so much video of me out there, then that's going to be super easy. So,
well, we're just adding to the pile now. You are replacing yourself. Excellent.
As long as I can still make the same money, I'm okay with that.
Oh, that's cute.
As soon as he starts asking for cash, like, hey, Dad, can I go out for, can I borrow the car? No.
So just from a maintainer's perspective, now that you have it opened up to the wider world, like you said, do you see anything different from the back end? Do you have any knowledge of what is being asked aside from if you explicitly ask somebody to tell you about their experience like you did when you were training it initially?
So Actually, I haven't dug into that piece of it yet. I hope that there is not any way for me to actually see how people are interacting, like on a word for word basis. That seems like that would be a big violation of privacy.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm waiting to hear from feedback from folks in the wild. I can't do for them the way that I was doing it, where I had the two windows up and I would ask it a question and then fine tune it in the edit section, unless I actually get feedback from them. I can't review how people are using the DevOps Mentor and then tweaking it on the go, which is why I spent so much time, getting the prompts right beforehand.
Right. No, it makes sense. I'm just trying to think, obviously there's a huge privacy risk anytime you have an open service like that, right? It doesn't matter if you build it for yourself and just only ever access it individually, or you, like what you did, is take that next step and make it publicly available. Just understanding what information is available is an open question, I think. But on the other hand, it would also help give you some ideas about how it's being used that could potentially make the ability to fine tune it a little bit better.
I think that the entire agent experience from OpenAI is very new. They're still trying to figure out ways to they have the, I guess they're calling it a marketplace, but there's no good creator interfaces for I would love to see Grafana graphs on usage over time, who's using it, what regions are being used, what types of questions, not exactly the questions from the users, but what types of questions are being asked. Serious questions, silly questions, inappropriate questions, what are the big buckets of things? And then when there's actual questions where it gets completely hung up on and just starts hallucinating like mad, I would love to see the exact prompt for those kinds of things. But yeah, OpenAI does not have a great track record with privacy. So I don't know what they're going to do with it.
Yeah, even if you saw statistics on what areas of the RAG were accessed the most.
Exactly. Of the 300 files I have in there, which one are you scraping the most, or which one is being accessed the most? That would be very valuable to me.
Yeah. Tell you what blog post to write next.
Yeah, totally.
To a certain degree, yeah. Cool, man. Well, if folks want to reach out to you, what's the best place to reach out, or where can they find you?
So my online name is Mistwire, Mistwire. If you go to the website, that's my website. If you put that in Google, I'm the first 10 pages of hits for Mistwire. So that's the best way to get to me. I am Chris Williams on LinkedIn, but there's 1,000,000,007 Chris Williamses on LinkedIn. So that's a tough one. But yeah, no, if you put Mistwire in there, anybody could find me real fast.
Awesome. Well, Chris, thanks for being on Chaos Lever. I hope you didn't find it too awful.
You kidding me? This was the best use of my time outside of going to the dentist. I'd rather do this than have a root canal.
High praise. Awesome. And hey, listeners, thanks for listening or something. I guess you found it worthwhile enough if you made it all the way to the end. So congratulations to you, friend.
Thanks, Mom.
You accomplished something today. Now you can go sit on the couch, ask your DevOps advisor what you should do with the rest of your afternoon, and then ignore it and play video games anyway. You've earned it. You can find more about our show by visiting our LinkedIn page. Just search Chaos Lever, or go to our website, pod.chaoslever.com, where you'll find show notes, blog posts, and general tomfoolery, and you can leave feedback. We might even read your feedback, perhaps in the tech news of the week. We'll see. And we'll see you next week to see what fresh hell is upon us. Ta-ta for now. I butchered that ending.
It wasn't great.
That's fine.
It's some of your worst work.
And that's saying something.
This is going to be the first bot that I create.
The one that replaces me?
Ned Outro bot.
Oh, because I'm not a robot.
Oh.